We live in a world where you can stream a video of a supernova exploding 100 million light years away, yet struggle to understand the emotions of the person sitting right next to you. Isn't that curious? At no other time in human history have we known so much about the outer universe and yet so little about the inner one. We build machines that can scan galaxies and decode the fabric of space-time, but still overlook the quiet tremble in someone's voice, the silent ache behind someone's smile. This is the paradox of modern progress. While our telescopes grow larger and sharper, our ability to feel the world truly feel has grown increasingly dim, and yet something remarkable is happening. Across this pale blue dot we call Earth, amidst the clamor of information, the noise of opinion, and the ever-spinning wheel of technological innovation, a quiet revolution is unfolding. It's not being televised. It's not trending. It doesn't make headlines, but it pulses like a heartbeat beneath everything we do. It's the rise of the empathic human, the sensitive, the deeply attuned, the ones who don't just read the data, they read the room. The ones who can't help but feel the weight of the world in their chest when they see suffering, who feel the climate shifting not just in temperature, but in soul. Empaths, and no, I'm not speaking in mystical terms or weaving New Age fantasies. I'm not referring to magical beings from a far-off realm. I'm talking about very real human beings, people whose neurological wiring, social experiences, and perhaps even evolutionary design have primed them to be hypersensitive to the emotional, energetic, and psychological states of others. People who feel deeply, who cry not just for themselves, but for the world, who laugh in unison with joy that isn't theirs, who wake up with a sense that something is shifting not just out there in the stars, but right here in the fabric of human consciousness. Now, imagine this. What if Earth, in all her chaotic complexity, is not just a planet in crisis, but a species in transition? What if evolution has not stopped with opposable thumbs and prefrontal cortices, but is still unfolding right now in ways we haven't learned to measure with instruments? What if evolution isn't only about survival of the fittest, but about survival of the kindest? From a cosmic perspective, evolution is rarely linear. It unfolds in bursts, sometimes violently, sometimes quietly, but always in response to change. Stars collapse to make heavier elements. Galaxies form in swirls of chaos. Life on this planet rose from the ocean floor, gasping and stumbling, not because it was ready, but because the environment demanded something new. And what does our current environment demand of us? Let's take a step back. Humanity today finds itself at the crossroads of multiple existential threats: climate disruption, artificial intelligence, resource depletion, political fragmentation, social alienation, all while balancing on a planet spinning at 10 miles per hour around a star that itself is orbiting the center of our galaxy at 500,000 miles per hour. Amid all this cosmic choreography, we're busy arguing about who's right. But as the environment grows more complex, survival will no longer depend solely on intellect or physical dominance. It will hinge on connection, on emotional intelligence, on empathy, because the next great leap in our evolution isn't about becoming stronger or smarter. It's about becoming more aware, more attuned, more human. Enter the empath. Let's frame it scientifically. Empathy can be understood as a neurobiological function involving mirror neurons and limbic resonance. These are not mystical forces. They are biological mechanisms that allow us to synchronize with the emotions of others. You see a person cry, and the regions in your brain responsible for sadness light up too. This is not metaphor. This is mirror. This is physics embedded in biology. And it's ancient. Our survival as tribes, as collectives, depended on this. But somewhere along the way, in the race to become civilized, monetized, optimized, we began to sever the very threads that made us human. And yet, the empaths didn't go away. In fact, they're increasing. More people today report heightened sensitivity to emotional states, environmental disturbances, and social dissonance than ever before. That's not weakness, that's a signal. That's evolution whispering, pay attention. Because evolution doesn't always shout. Sometimes it arrives not as mutation, but as perception. You've probably noticed it, maybe even in yourself, that feeling that you're somehow too sensitive for this world, that the news weighs too heavy on your chest, that you can feel other people's pain even when they haven't said a word, that crowds drain you, that silence revives you, that nature speaks to you in ways words cannot. You're not broken. You're not soft. You're part of something emergent, something necessary, something ancient being reborn in modern form. Now, here's the philosophical twist. What if this rise in empathy is not accidental, but orchestrated by nature itself? What if Earth, sensing its own fragility, has summoned its most sensitive offspring to the surface? Just as the immune system dispatches white blood cells to areas of infection, perhaps the planet conscious in ways we do not yet understand is dispatching empaths to where healing is needed most. And what if, just what if, this is the dawning of a new evolutionary archetype? One not built on domination, but on resonance. Not on control, but coherence. If we look to the stars, we see that the universe favors connection. Galaxies are held together by gravity. Atoms are bound by electromagnetism. Even black holes, those devourers of light, are connected to distant regions of the cosmos through entangled particles we're only beginning to understand. Connection is not weakness. It is structure. It is survival. It is destiny. Empaths embody that. They are the cosmic translators of emotion. They are the gravitational force that reminds us what it means to belong not just to each other, but to the entire living system that is Earth. While much of society worships separation, the self-made man, the isolated genius, the individual will empaths know something deeper, that true power lies in interdependence, in shared breath, in felt experience. But let's not romanticize the empath's journey. This path is not easy. It means feeling deeply in a world that often numbs. It means absorbing chaos in order to transmute it into clarity. It means standing in the middle of a storm and choosing to be still, not because you are passive, but because you are tuned to something more subtle than noise, harmony. It takes courage to feel in a world that rewards suppression. It takes strength to pause and listen in an era addicted to reaction. But if we hope to survive not just technologically, but spiritually, psychologically, ecologically, we must begin listening to the empathic frequencies rising within us. You see, this isn't just about the empaths who walk among us. This is about the empath inside all of us, the part of our species that evolution is now calling forward. It's latent in you, dormant perhaps, but waiting. And when activated, it becomes more than a personality trait. It becomes a compass, a navigational system for the soul. Because to evolve now is to feel. To lead now is to care. And to survive now, as a species, is to remember that we are not above nature, we are of it. That every heartbeat echoes the pulse of a planet. That every breath is borrowed from trees. That every emotion is a signal from something ancient trying to get our attention. So, if you've ever felt too much good, that means you're still alive. That means your humanity hasn't been burned out by cynicism or distraction. That means you are precisely what this planet needs right now. Not as a savior, not as a hero, but as a mirror, a bridge, a reminder. The rise of the new Earth isn't about building cities in the sky or colonizing Mars. It's about decolonizing our hearts, reclaiming the sacred intelligence of empathy, learning once again to speak the language of the living, a language made not of words, but of presence. And the empaths? They're not here to fix the world alone. They're here to awaken it, to remind us that the next leap in human evolution will not be measured in IQ points, but in compassion. Not in GDP, but in GCE gross, compassionate empathy. And in that light, maybe the future isn't waiting. Maybe it's already here, whispering, calling, beating beneath every act of kindness, every moment of stillness, every quiet choice to feel. And yet, for all the beauty this empathic renaissance brings, it confronts an old, stubborn, foresown, that has shaped our world for centuries. The myth of disconnection. This myth says we are isolated atoms, floating through life with individual purposes, separate from one another, competing for survival in a zero-sum game of limited resources. It is the myth that celebrates rugged independence over graceful interdependence. The myth that taught us to monetize nature instead of revere it. The myth that told us emotions were inconvenient at best, liabilities. But science, at its best, is a mythbuster. And the story the universe tells through physics, biology, and even evolutionary psychology is a different one. Quantum particles that are entangled remain connected across vast distances. Trees and forests share nutrients through underground fungal networks. Human beings, when deprived of emotional connection, suffer not just psychologically, but physical. Your immune systems falter, our lifespans shorten, our cognition dims. The truth is woven into the fabric of the cosmos. Connection is not optional. It is fundamental. This is where the empath enters not as a luxury, but as a necessity. Not as a fringe idealist, but as a prototype of what humanity may need to become. Because the future we are hurtling toward will not be navigated by algorithms alone. Artificial intelligence can compute, predict, and adapt, but it cannot yet care. It cannot yet feel the tremble in a mother's voice as she fears for her child's future. It cannot grieve for a dying coral reef or feel awe at the northern lights. Empathy is not programmable. It is organic. And that is its power. You see, for all our technological achievements, we remain biological creatures on a living planet. We eat, we breathe, we love, we hurt. We are not floating data points, Epley, are storied, emotional beings whose choices ripple through ecosystems and economies alike. And if our technology is not guided by empathy, it risks becoming a force of amplification, amplifying greed, inequality, and isolation rather than healing them. So the rise of the empath is not just timely, it is evolutionary strategy. Imagine then what it means to be one of these people, someone who walks through the noise of modern life and still hears the whisper beneath it all. Someone who can feel the climate in a conversation before a word is spoken. Someone whose nervous system responds to suffering not with shutdown, but with stillness, receptivity, presence. It's no easy path. Many empaths grow up feeling out of place, overwhelmed by a world that moves too fast, demands too much, and rewards too little of what truly matters. They feel everything, but are told to toughen up. They notice subtle shifts in mood and are dismissed as too sensitive. They seek meaning and are called naive. But what if these qualities are not weaknesses? What if they are the early signs of a more advanced perceptual system? In biology, the most adaptive traits often appear first as vulnerabilities. Think of the first amphibians crawling onto land, awkward, exposed, barely functional, and yet they represented the future. The misfits of one era become the architects of the next. So too with empaths. Their pain, it is the signal of connection being reestablished, like a limb that's fallen asleep and is now tingling back to life. Their sorrow for the world, it is a sign that numbness is dissolving. Their discomfort in shallow conversations, loud environments, and hollow success, it is a compass pointing toward deeper waters. Empaths don't just feel, they process. They metabolize emotional data the way a tree filters carbon dioxide. They take in the noise and return silence. They absorb the hurt and release healing. They are not just sensitive, they are alchemists of the heart. And that's why they're rising now, because the world is in emotional overload. Information comes faster than wisdom. Outrage spreads quicker than understanding. We are drenched in stimuli and parched for depth. And so those who can navigate this inner terrain, those with emotional intelligence, spiritual depth, and neurobiological attunement are no longer optional. They're essential. But this rise is not automatic. It requires cultivation. You see, empathy, like any capacity, must be honed. It must be balanced with discernment, protected by boundaries, and grounded in clarity. Without this, empaths can burn out carrying the pain of others without transmuting it, absorbing without transforming, feeling everything but acting on nothing. So the new Earth will not be built by empaths alone, but by empowered empaths. Grounded visionaries, feelers who also think, hearts that know how to act, people who combine the best of science and spirit, logic and love, clarity and compassion. And here's the deeper truth. Evolution doesn't wait for us to be ready. It happens when it must. The tectonic plates shift whether we're paying attention or not. So too, with this empathic awakening, it's not about whether we believe in it, it's about whether we choose to participate in it. You are not being asked to save the world. You're being asked to feel it fully, sincerely, without flinching. And in doing so, you awaken a part of yourself that may have been dormant for decades or lifetimes. This is not mystical jargon. This is what happens when we remember that our nervous systems were designed not just for survival, but for attunement. That our hearts don't just pump blood, they radiate fields measurable by magnetometers. That our story is shared in intimacy shape the brains of those who listen. That empathy is not soft science. It is subtle science. And subtlety, in the right hands, can move mountains or birth a new Earth. The question is no longer, are you an empath? The real question, the evolutionary one, is, can you afford not to be? Because the times we live in don't just ask for information. They demand integration. They demand that we feel what we know, that we bring emotion into alignment with action and intuition into dialogue with evidence. We are entering a chapter of human history where disconnection is no longer merely inconvenient, it's dangerous. To remain numb in the face of ecological collapse is not strength, it's blindness. To stay indifferent to injustice is not neutrality, it's complicity. And yet, the solution isn't outrage. It's not another ideological flag to wave. The true revolution, if we're wise enough to see itis internal, it's quieter than protest. It happens in a moment of listening, a breath before judgment, a hand extended when none was expected. And this, perhaps more than any invention or policy or proclamation, is what reshapes societies. The slow, invisible shift of hearts opening in unison. Empaths don't just feel, they teach the rest of us how to feel again. But let's not reduce this to sentimentality. Because empathy, real empathy, is not easy. It is not soft. It is not merely feeling bad when someone else is hurting. Empathy is radical presence. It's the courage to enter into another's reality without losing your own. It is active. It is skillful. It is discipline in the language of emotion. And the science? It's catching up. Studies in neuroscience reveal that our brains are wired for connection. Mirror neurons fire when we observe someone experiencing pain or joy. Oxytocin, the so-called love hormone, surges not only during intimacy, but even in moments of shared eye contact. Functional MRI scans show that when we listen deeply to someone's story, the same brain regions activate in the listener as in the speaker. Empathy isn't magic, it's biology. But biology, expressed consciously, becomes culture. And culture, when aligned with empathy, becomes evolution. So, where are we heading? If we zoom out far enough past the cities, the countries, the conflicts, even past the cloud layer of Earth, what we see is not chaos, but complexity. What we see is a biosphere attempting to balance itself, a species attempting to find coherence, a planet not failing but maturing, and maturity doesn't always look graceful. Sometimes it looks like collapse, like shedding old skins, like confronting all that no longer serves our survival, not just individually, but collectively. And that's where the empathic leaders are being called. Not just politicians or public figures. I'm talking about quiet revolutionaries, the teachers who sense a child's anxiety before the child speaks, the nurses who bring dignity to death, the parents who raise emotionally literate children in a world of digital noise, the scientists who listen not only to the data, but to the implications of that data for real human lives. The future belongs to those who can feel complexity and not run from it, who can sit with paradox and not try to simplify it into black and white, who understand that empathy is not the opposite of intelligence, it's the deepening of it. You want to change the world? Start by understanding that the world isn't a machine. It's a living system. And systems evolve when enough nodes within them begin to vibrate differently. Empathy is a frequency. And when that frequency rises within enough of us, we shift the resonance of the whole. You don't need a platform to do this. You need presence. You don't need millions of followers. You need to follow your inner compass. You don't need to be perfect. You need to be real. And let's be honest, it's tempting to shut down, to numb out, to become another well-informed cynic, to say, the world is broken and I'm just here to get through it. But cynicism is not wisdom. It's the armor of those who've been hurt and never healed. True wisdom does not reject feeling it, includes it. It honors the full spectrum of human experience. The grief and the joy, the despair and the wonder, the loneliness and the belonging. Because this is what it means to be cosmically human. To stand on a planet billions of years old, orbiting a star that will one day collapse in a galaxy among trillions, and still find it meaningful to hold someone's hand, to look into the eyes of a stranger and recognize yourself, to cry for a rainforest you've never visited, or feel the heartbreak of a culture you weren't born into. That's not weakness. That's evolution doing its sacred work through you. Empaths are not here to fix the system from within. They're here to transform it from beneath, from the soil of the soul. They're here to compost the outdated myths of superiority, separation, and scarcity, and grow something wiser, something softer, something stronger. And if you're wondering, but what can I do? I'm just one person. Consider this. In physics, there is a concept called critical mass. When enough particles align in a certain state, the entire system transforms. One water molecule alone cannot boil. But increase the temperature of enough molecules, and suddenly water becomes steam. It's not about one empath changing everything. It's about enough empaths choosing to feel, to connect, to act not just once, but consistent until the tipping point is reached. The new Earth won't arrive with fireworks or fanfare. It will rise in the unnoticed moments, in the shift of how we speak to one another, in the stories we choose to tell our children, in how we design our cities, structure our economies, and prioritize our time. It will rise when feeling deeply is no longer a liability, but a leadership skill. We are not waiting for the age of empathy. We are in it. And if that feels overwhelming, good. It means you're paying attention. It means the empath in you is waking up. And once awake, you'll see things you can't unsee. You'll feel things you can't ignore. And slowly, the world will begin to look less like a battlefield and more like a classroom. Less like a marketplace and more like a garden. Not because the pain disappears, but because you've learned to transmute it. Empathy doesn't erase suffering. It dignifies it. It says, you are not alone. And in a universe as vast as ours, sometimes that is the most powerful thing one being can say to another. It's tempting, in the face of all this, to ask, what does the universe want from us? Why, in this remote corner of a galaxy, spiraling through space, has consciousness bloomed in such peculiar forms, soft, emotional, tender, self-aware? Why? Amid the elemental forces of entropy, gravity, nuclear fusion, and magnetism, does a creature like you exist, capable not just of observing reality, but of feeling it? The universe, for all its majestic vastness, is mostly silence. Dark matter outweighs visible matter 5-1. Most of the cosmos is cold, empty, and indifferent. And yet here you are, warm-blooded, fragile, alive. You feel things, you weep at sunsets, you hold grief in your bones, you crave meaning in a reality that doesn't offer it freely. So you build it together. Empathy, then, is not a glitch in the system. It is perhaps the finest expression of cosmic intelligence, turning inward. It is stardust, gaining the ability to care, to love, to listen. And if we've learned anything from the story of the cosmos, it's this: Evolution does not waste energy on things that don't serve the whole. If empathy is rising now, at this moment of global instability and transition, it is because the Earth needs it. You were born for now, not before, not after, now. In physics, there is a principle called resonance. It occurs when one vibrating body causes another to vibrate in harmony with it. It's how tuning forks work. It's how sound travels. It's how empathy spreads. One nervous system attuned to compassion can shift the emotional frequency of a room. One calm breath can settle the chaos of another person's storm. And when enough humans vibrate in resonance with peace, dignity, and truth, a tipping point is reached. That is what the new Earth is. Not a different planet, not a place we're going, but a resonance we are creating. A new field of coherence emerging not from above, but from within. Empaths are not here to lead with authority. They're here to lead with presence. They're not here to preach. They're here to model. To live in such a way that others remember their own softness, their own depth, their own divine spark, hidden beneath the rubble of daily survival. And while the old world may call them weak, the universe knows otherwise. Because what is stronger than someone who can face pain and not close off? What is more courageous than choosing vulnerability in a culture that rewards domination? Empaths are not delicate, they are deliberate. They walk barefoot through the fires of this age and emerge, not burned, but open. But let us be honest, one last time, this path is not without cost. There will be days when you'll wish you could turn it off. When feeling too much feels like drowning. When numbness tempts you like a shield. When others say, why can't you just let it go? And the answer is simple, because your nervous system is a listening device tuned to the frequencies of life, because you are not separate from what you observe, because evolution entrusted you with this ability for a reason. So what do? You breathe. You anchor yourself in presence. You let the feelings come, but not consume you. You let the world hurt, but not harden you. You create small sanctuaries where empathy is not drained, but nourished. You seek community, not for popularity, but for attunement. You find others who feel the tremble behind the headlines, the silence in the noise, the future humming softly through every act of kindness. And in time, something shifts. You stop seeing empathy as a burden and begin to recognize it as a bridge. You realize you are not carrying the world's pain, you are transforming it. You see that you are not alone, not now, not ever. That scattered across this globe are millions of others like you, quietly, deliberately, awake. Empaths are rising. And with them, so is a new vision of humanity, one not built on conquest, but cooperation. Not on ownership, but stewardship. Not on domination, but dialogue. We are the species that dreams while awake, that sings to its children, that buries its dead with ceremony, that reaches into space not just to conquer, but to understand. And now, in this time of reckoning and rebirth, we must remember who we are. We are not algorithms. We are not avatars. We are not products of profit. We are biological, emotional, cosmic beings made of atoms, yes, but also made of stories, of longing, of love. And those stories matter because the universe is not dead matter, it is becoming, always becoming. And it becomes through you, through your choices, through your empathy, through your courage to stay open when the world asks you to close. So let this be your reminder. The rise of the new earth will not come with thunder. It will come in moments so small they're almost invisible, in how you listen, in how you pause, in how you choose compassion when cruelty is easier. You don't need to wait for permission, or proof, or prophecy. The future is already seated in your cells, and is waiting for you to say yes. Yes to feeling, yes to healing, yes to rising. So rise gently, fiercely, quietly, fully. The new earth is not a destination, it is a frequency. And you are the tuning fork